Hello, folks. I'm Nick Bernardo, your host of MyGovWatch Live, the B2G Roundtable. If you're east of the Rocky Mountains here in the US, good afternoon. Good morning to those out west, and hello to anyone joining us from the far corners of the earth or watching online in the future. Today is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. This series is brought to you by MyGovWatch. With a curated white glove approach, MyGovWatch delivers leads in more than 200 industries at double the rate of free government tools and at a fraction of the cost of legacy websites. Big government contracts do not start with a solicitation, but all roads lead to one, and your budget for hearing about RFPs does not have to be thousands of dollars per year. Start your 14-day trial today. Well, folks, it's August. We're officially in the dog days of summer, assuming you're in North America. And for those of you who have been on with us before, I started having a little bit more fun with our virtual backgrounds. And I always have trouble figuring out like where does my hand go in relation to the camera. So this is a photo of my family. I'm the one with the big head in the back. And this is actually from last week, maybe about 8 days ago, perhaps, in one of the largest glaciers in Europe, in Iceland. So if you participate with us today, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you if you had any neat summer vacations or if you have any plans for travel coming up. It's one of my favorite topics. It seems to be something everyone can relate to because not everyone here golfs, I'm sure, and I would bore you to death if I made everyone talk about that. But anyway, we had a trip to Iceland, so I was excited about it. It was a lot of fun, so I might ask you, where have you been or where are you going? We're going to sort of jump right in, folks. We're going to talk to someone named Corinthian Carpenter. And Corinthian, let me bring you on. Hello, Corinthian. We just need your audio as well.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, Corinthian. Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Okay, I am a business owner in North Carolina. I I'm running multiple operations, honestly, multiple businesses within my enterprise, and we are exclusively dedicated to the public sector. So I don't know if this is appropriate, but I actually brought a slide presentation to kind of walk you through some of the details.
Yeah, we're mainly just taking questions, Corinthian, on these sessions. But before we get into it, do you have any exciting travel plans or did you go anywhere fun so far this summer?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, I just came back from a family reunion in July, at the end of July, and we got a chance to gamble over in Canada and see the Niagara Falls. So I was up in Buffalo, New York, and I'm going to be making several trips up the coast to DC throughout the year, looking at museums and things like that. And I do have some international travel being planned, but given my trying to operate multiple businesses, I may or may not commit to the international travel at this time.
Well, it's never easy. And just give us a flavor for like how do these different businesses relate to one another without like sharing your screen, but just kind of give us the high level what you would say to someone in an elevator.
Ah, perfect. I have a concept of an enterprise, and this enterprise is composed of 10 entities. And so I had as a concept a rollout strategy where every 2 years I was going to launch a different entity within my business. So when I look at what is being purchased across statewide federal governments and local governments, I found that it was pretty common to think about certain domains or certain areas of technology solutions or offerings. And so I have, of those 10, I have six literally stood up so far. I have education and training, and each of my entities don't compete with each other for clients. They participate in their own space and they have their own teams and things like that. So I have education and training, I have construction, I have healthcare, I have technology, I have media and entertainment, and I have professional services. So those are the ones, and I have teams that are dedicated to each of these. So I'm not trying to run them all myself, but I am trying to be the overseer of the enterprise, the entities within the enterprise. And within each of the businesses, they have a concept of practices and they have a concept of domains. And so it's pretty involved and it keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. And so what sorts of things are you trying to accomplish in the government contracting domain? What have you done so far? And how can we help you figure out what to do next?
Yeah, I've actually been doing this part-time since 2022. So I launched a few of these businesses and I was a full-time employee for Wells Fargo. I was an executive in Wells Fargo. And so I actually was doing it part-time. And then as of March of this year, I separated from Wells Fargo and now I'm running them full-time. So primarily, the bigger picture for me is to create the resources to be able to do philanthropy and to be able to do some charitable giving and that kind of thing. And so the things that we get involved in is around the technology. I'm focused primarily on data and AI. So that space is where we're consuming. And so around the healthcare, I'm focused around the medical equipment, the maintenance of the medical equipment in the operating room and in the patient's rooms and that kind of thing across the hospital facilities and the government. Those
Okay.
are examples, yeah.
All right. And by the way, before I ask this next question, anyone who would like to participate, I'll just tell you, sometimes we have like 30 or 40 people on these sessions. It's August, right? So it's a little bit more intimate. It's a smaller scale event. So it would be a perfect opportunity for you to jump in. If you want to raise your hand, I'm just going to keep bringing people on and it'll be just like a group conversation. That's the way it
Okay.
would be to do it today. So please raise your hand if you have a question and you'd like to jump right in, and I will bring you in right away. So, Corinthian, what kinds of challenges are you having in growing the GovCon part of your business, and what can we help you with?
Okay, got it. The business model that I operate on is primarily I have like a 1 to 10 ratio between employees and contractors. And I'm big on partners. So if I'm doing something in my professional services space, I can bid on that as long as I have preempted it with the particular partner that I want to go into that contract with. So I have those relationships that I put together. And when I'm needing a team to go in and implement, be on the ground and implement, I actually have 4 or 5 different staffing companies that work with me to provide me personnel. So I can size my projects based on what the client needs, that kind of thing. And so the challenge I have is making sure that I can keep my pipeline full. So I actually I try to have a model where I'm producing at least 10 proposals. I'm soliciting 10 proposals a month on average. And if I can do more, I do more. But 10 is got to do 10. If I can do more, I do more. So I try to keep my pipeline full. And because I have a number of partners, for example, on my tech side, I partner with Amazon, Google, and Microsoft for my cloud services. And so I go through their processes to submit my opportunities. They have an opportunities pipeline. And then I have go through the process of either getting awarded the project or getting not awarded the project. Um, so that's working well, honestly. That process is pretty much well oiled. The thing that I want to do is have more projects coming through than I have capacity to service the projects. And so I have been looking at contract vehicles. At the state level, I'm registered across 14 states in the US, and I'm registered in the federal level. And so I actually participate in state term contracts. So I get on state contracts and I also get involved in the vehicles. The fact that I am aware that there are over 400,000 contract vehicles in the federal government. And then there's a series of tier 0 to tier 3, in terms of how they all lay out. That is my biggest challenge, is to try to figure out how can I expediently, I know the process to go through USA spending and to go to FPDS and then find information about these vehicles. Given my competencies and capabilities, I can go and do searches and things like that. So my biggest challenge is trying to make sure that I'm tracking the these vehicles, these contract vehicles, and when they come up, so that I can get on these contract vehicles, just coordinating that timeline and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it would be a particular challenge in your business with a number of different things that you're
That's
wanting
right.
involved in. And a lot of times on these sessions, Corinthian, when we bring someone else on to participate with us, and we're going to bring Pranette on in a moment, things that someone else may say may cause us to all learn something. So Pranette, I'd like you to join, and Corinthian, please stay with us. Pranette, can you give us your audio?
Hello, hello.
Welcome, Pranette. Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Okay, I'm down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I actually have a full service moving and storage company.
Okay.
So,
And before we go any further, you may have joined late. I'm not sure if you heard this. Have you done anything fun over the summer holidays? Have you taken any vacations or anything coming up soon?
actually, no.
Okay. Well, you're shoulder to the grindstone, as we used to say, and you're in the trenches. So, what kinds of things are you looking to do in government contracting, and what are some of the questions you have around that?
Okay, well, being that we are a full service moving and storage company, we're looking for contracts that we can identify with, and assist with. But the problem that we're having is that right now we don't have any experience with being a prime contractor. So we're actually looking for subcontracting opportunities.
Okay.
Um, just basically looking to start out with local or state contracting and
Mhm.
eventually move to federal.
Yes. Yes. And so, if I'm not mistaken, you're in a trial on our website, are you not?
And not yet. I was actually going to do that today to start the trial.
Okay, okay. And what I'm about to say is not necessarily about our product, but you could use our product for this purpose, for example. So you may not be bidding on a lot of contracts as a prime contractor, but there are a lot of opportunities that you'll see on MyGovWatch, even in the state of Florida or in the Southeast, where it's either for exactly what you do, or it could be adjacent to what you do. And they could be looking for some service. Like, for example, I remember seeing a solicitation at the federal level where they wanted to hire somebody to repossess boats, but then they also needed, as a part of that solution, to move the boats anywhere they needed to be moved. Now, I don't know if you move boats. I'm just using this as an example, but that's an opportunity where you can team with someone on a contract, or where you could use our site to identify opportunities where it doesn't necessarily say moving and storage, but you can tell by the title that they're going to need to subcontract the movement of different materials and
Exactly,
items, right?
exactly. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're speaking
Yeah, and
about.
so our site can send you leads on a daily basis, and there are ways to see who is bidding on different contracts. So you could use our site as a jumping off point to identify who would be the prime contractors who are winning these kinds of contracts.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah. And so have you bid on any government contracts to date, or have you gone to any other networking events?
Oh yeah, that's my biggest thing. I have gone to several networking events down in South Florida. The past couple of months they've been having a lot going on. So of course I've been networking and finding out about different opportunities. Um, most of them are for sometime next year, but of course we got to get our foot in the door. And actually yesterday I did a Zoom for, it was like the pre-presentation of a solicitation. We're trying to be a subcontractor, but they basically, were telling us exactly what they're looking for. So I was able to speak with the actual contracting officer. Um, they gave me their contact information so that I could send over our capability statement, things like that. Or just trying to get the name of our company out there. So, you may not need our services right now, but they'll have the information to reach out. Hey, they could probably handle this for us.
Sure, sure. And so is this a federal contracting opportunity?
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah, you're using terminology that we would typically associate with federal contracting. It's always a good idea to network with contracting officers, whether it be at the federal, state, or local level. So you're doing some things now that should bear fruit in the future. It's not the kind of thing that will happen overnight, but if you're committed to it, and it seems that you are, I'm assuming you have significant commercial non-government clients.
Yes, yes, we do.
Yeah, so a lot of people are a little hesitant to jump into government contracting because they may not realize that their commercial private sector clients absolutely are applicable to bidding on contracts directly, or certainly would have currency if you'd like to be a subcontractor. So kudos to you for taking steps down that road. And you have a capability statement, so that will have value to you as you start pursuing federal contracts, because in most cases, a prime contractor looking for subs will ask for your capability statement, but also contracting officers at the federal level, they'll all be asking for your capability statement.
Right.
So we also, and Pranette, please stay with us, because I want to keep this, when we talk about the B2G Roundtable, I like to think of it like, you might go to a conference and you might be sitting around a table with 8 people from 8 different backgrounds. That's how I like to run these sessions. So stay with us, and I want to bring Drew on to participate. Drew, can we have your audio?
Yes, sir. You got it?
Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do, and where do you do it from?
Well, I am based in Southern California.
Okay, and is that a virtual background, or are you actually in a warehouse?
Looks good, huh? I'm sitting in my warehouse. Look at that. This is one of 20 warehouses we have. What we do is we're a company that's been around since 1962. It's called Dante Disposables, or Dante LLC. And our claim to fame was really in the disposable cosmetics realm all this time. And we've got big distributors and big accounts with name brand Macy's, Nordstrom, Sephora. But our capabilities are so much more. And so because we have everything from factories to logistics to warehousing, it's time for us to expand. Okay. And so what we're looking to do is not only expand anything disposable, so glass jars, pouches, bags, all that kind of stuff, but there's no reason why we shouldn't go after local, state government and all that stuff. They need this stuff too, right?
Sure, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, you have the ability to produce all kinds of these products, right?
Pretty much. The reality is, and we've got factories all over the world that we can tap into, and we go to the high quality ones, okay? And because we run such a tight overhead, we typically beat everybody's RFP, okay? And so our biggest issue, and this is why I'm here today, is we need deal flow. We need to break into the government realm. And we've got some other things that are really interesting. We're woman owned and minority owned.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of good check marks, on our balance sheet, so to speak. And now we just need to get pointed in the right direction. So ideally, my job is to just get us as much, quoting and bids as we can. I'd like to be doing several per day.
Yeah, I would like you to be doing several per day. And I think in your case, it's a little bit of a different use case. And I'm going to switch gears and talk about our website for a moment. Your use case is such that you have a diversity of interests, right? It's a little different, let's say, from what Pranette's doing, because Pranette is looking for something in a rather specific lane, right? And you're sort of looking for things that may be all over the board, and something you hadn't thought of today might show up tomorrow, and that would be something you would pursue, but you didn't necessarily think about it in advance. And I think that would be your use case, would it not?
Yeah, you're so right. I was just having lunch with one of the owner yesterday, Andreas, and we were looking at categories and companies and industries and verticals we want to pursue. And I said, hey, I opted out of cannabis. And he's like, wait a minute, no, we can supply them with the baggies, the pouches, the jars, all that stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's kind of like providing the gold miners with the shovels and the overalls and all the stuff.
Yeah. So I would think that if you're using our site, we would need to have some conversations around, which categories you're selecting and what are you seeing in your daily lead digest, and maybe what do you feel is missing from the lead digest? Because unfortunately, I think what you're describing would need to be a little bit more proactive. Whether you were not using a site like ours at all, or even if you were using a competing site, your use case would be a little bit more proactive than the average user. But boy, there's going to be a lot of opportunity out there for you. So I'm encouraged that, that you're jumping right into it. What do you think some of the challenges will be? Well, let me ask you a different question. Federally, and this also applies at the state level, are you aware of the idea that they want to know where the products are originating?
In some cases, yes, they do. And you can't have things out of China or certain countries, right?
Yeah, at the federal level, there's a list of countries that has to do with free trade agreements. But are you doing some of that research? I am not an attorney. I have a somewhat familiarity with it, but are you doing a little research around that federally?
Not yet, but I will be.
Okay. All right. We have a relationship with a law firm out of Kansas, the Coprince McCall Potroff firm, and they specialize in federal government contracting in particular. So if there's ever a time where you would like that referral, they do preliminary calls gratis where they'll just, they want you in their database, they'll have a conversation with you. But that might be an area where a company like yours might want to have a legal partner, because there's a lot of aspects to the logistics, right? The supply chain, where things come up with federal contracts that may be unique to federal, and those federal contracts may be some of your largest opportunities.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to bring Pepper Cox on, and Drew, please stay with us because we're going to keep this free flow. Pepper, I'm going to ask you to join us because you've asked a question that I'd like to see if I could get you to ask live, because I think it really would benefit a lot of people. So I've just sent you a prompt, and maybe you'll see it. Hopefully you will see it. Pepper has mentioned that it's a disabled veteran-owned company, and there's a very specific question that Pepper would like to ask. Well, I've sent the prompt. Let's just see if Pepper will see it. But follow-up questions, Drew or Corinthian?
Yeah, I was just thinking that what you guys were just talking about in terms of federal laws that might prohibit things. I had to deal with that when I work with a couple of offshore development companies for the projects that I do. And I have to be very particular about exposing how the development's going to get done and how it's going to be done. Primarily, it's out of Mexico right now. And so I also have a team in London, England, that kind of thing. And so I have to make sure that I'm not in violation of anything that the government requires. So the concept you guys just had about, the stipulations on the government, it applies to the things that I'm trying to do as well.
Yeah, and you're specifically referring to tech, right? You're talking to development, right?
Yeah, tech is the example I'm using now, but I definitely have to make sure that as I'm looking at partnering and teaming, that that I'm not in violation based on the things that's not explicitly written in the proposals that I participate in.
Yeah, I mean, there are, and I would sort of draw a distinction between what Drew is looking to find out around the point of origination of products and the supply chain, and you would sort of be that the other side of the spectrum. So this is, intellectual property and data access and security. So
Right.
they are definitely tightening the reins on where things can happen and how things can happen with technical development. And so that is an area where you could spend, weeks just researching, like, what are the different requirements, whether it's DoD or DOJ and different things.
Right.
But I will tell you this, the more development that you're doing domestically, that will be of benefit, although there will certainly be opportunities to offshore a different type of development, again, depending on the country where you're looking to do it. So there's a big difference, for example, between the UK and, let's say, Ukraine or Russia, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So as long as you're conscious of those geopolitical factors, then I think you would probably be headed in the right direction.
I agree.
So I guess my question for Corinthian is, if he wanted to stand up his 11th company and he could use, since he's got access in special circumstances with government contracts, he could find stuff and partner with us, and we can have stuff made or, and brought into
Absolutely.
the pipeline for him. So there's,
Absolutely.
yeah, there's some opportunities with that kind of stuff.
It
as well.
is. Yeah.
Yes, there are opportunities to do teaming arrangements. There are opportunities to do prime and subcontracting relationships. And if you all wanted to make contact with one another after this session, that would not be the first time that happened on MyGovWatch Live. This will be on YouTube later. You could certainly use the chat if you want to share some contact details, or just send me your information and I'll make sure that we trade it. We have a couple of questions that have come in via chat only, and I'd like to field them. And it looks like Pepper has responded yes. So Pepper, I'm going to promote you one more time. If you decline, I will still try to answer your question, but I will definitely give you a better answer if you're willing to go back and forth about your question. So I'm going to try to promote you again. And Liz, I do see your question. Liz asks, good morning. Liz is in attendance. We are a minority-owned small IT business. We're starting to get into government contracts. What's the best way to go about this? We found some programs for small businesses through the U.S. government. Do you feel like it is worth it to get registered as a small disadvantaged business? So you ask a question which could have an answer that could take a half hour. I'm going to give you the shorter answer. We recently did a survey back it was in January, but we sent out tens of thousands of email to government folks who are buying products and services every day. And one of the questions we asked them, and this will benefit you, Corinthian, as well, was, what are some areas where you feel like it's hard to get solutions that you need from the private sector? And you may not be shocked to learn that IT and programming solutions are some of the more difficult things that government seeks to acquire, that they're not always able to acquire the way that they would like to acquire them. I don't know if you see this in your business, Drew, but certainly in our business, a lot of the limitations of many businesses today is around getting things done of a technical nature, and the government is no different in that respect. So I guess that's my way, Liz, of saying that it's good that you are a minority-owned firm, but just the fact that you have IT capabilities, you always want to lead with your capabilities, because typically people are not getting contracts simply because they're a minority firm or because they're a disabled vet firm. That might seal the deal, right? That might be just the icing on the cake that gets you the contract. So the best way to go about it, there will not be a single answer. We have seen so many different types of companies have success in government contracting in different ways. And here's what I mean by that. You might have person A that just starts bidding on government contracts, right? Just seeing solicitations on our website, for example, and they have enough commercial experience where they can use their private sector references and win prime contracts almost immediately. That does happen. We have other people who might go to networking events and might meet a prime contractor who needs to spend 5% of their federal contract with disadvantaged firms. And they might find out that you can do something for them that would help them with the minimum spend that they're required to spend as subcontracted dollars on their federal contract. We've seen that happen. So there is no one way that people get into government contracting. It's the kind of thing where you might have fits and starts where you do different things, and what works for you may not work for someone else, and vice versa. So when you say, is it worth it to get registered as a small disadvantaged business? What you're talking about there is a self-certification on sam.gov. And it is always worth it if you'd like to be a government contractor to get a sam.gov account, because the government cannot award you a contract. The federal government cannot award you a contract unless you do have an active sam.gov account. So you would be certifying in that database that you meet the requirements of the disadvantaged business program. But then there are other things like 8A, right? So 8A has its own eligibility criteria. There's the Hub Zone program. So we haven't talked about like where are you physically located, because the Hub Zone program is based on where your headquarters is. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to talk to Pepper for a few minutes. But Liz, if you'd like to jump on and ask follow-up questions, please raise your hand and I'll bring you in. And so Pepper, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
We are a handyman and contractor company, and we're located in Alabama.
Okay. And you see my background. I just brought my family back from Iceland a week ago. It was freezing. I left tremendously fabulous weather on the East Coast for freezing weather in Iceland. I'm happy to be back, but have you done anything fun this summer? Do you have anything planned?
No, we're working. We're trying to get off our heads above water, so we have
Totally
our
get
heads
it.
down right now.
Totally get it. And you had a question about both being service disabled vets. And by the way, thank you for your service. When we get through this conversation, I'm going to tell you about a benefit that we extend to service disabled veteran-owned businesses. So thank you for your service. Tell me, what is your question around disabled vet certifications?
Well, I set up the company. My husband and I are both service disabled vets, but I put the company in his name for the federal government contracts. Because I was told that if I tried to change it to myself midway, that it would look bad and we couldn't use him as an employee. That's what somebody from USFRC told us. But my question is, if I do move the company under my name, is it better because I can get the service disabled vet cert and the women-owned business? Or is it not that much of a difference, kind of based off what you said, I think previously, it might not matter that much? It's just
Okay, yeah.
the iceberg kind of thing.
This is a great question. And just confirm for me, are we talking about federal contracts here?
I don't know. So we're new to this. So I don't know if it applies to state and federal.
I'm gonna give you the federal answer, and then I'll give you other than federal answer. For federal contracts, there's a concept in the regulations, and I'm not an attorney, but I know a lot about this particular topic. There's a concept of unconditional control of the business. So my question to you would be, who has unconditional control of the business?
On paper, he does, but it's really me.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. Are you both active in the business?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Do you feel like you are making decisions in tandem, or do you feel like you're making unilateral decisions?
I think I'm making the majority of the decisions. Like, I'll run it by him, but ultimately it's me.
Okay. Do you have an operating or partnership agreement that spells all this out, or is it just like husband and wife and you just figure it out as you go?
No, I just put him as the sole to make things easier.
Okay. So this is the answer federally. Again, this is for federal contracts, but there's a lot of benefit in federal contracting for disabled vet and woman-owned companies compared to the state and local level. If anyone were to ever challenge your status as both a disabled vet and a woman-owned business, they would ask questions about what actually happens in the business. And they would also ask for documents on who has unconditional control of the business. And if it turned out that they determined that you were making decisions in tandem with one another, they would say that you're really not a woman-owned business. However, because you are both disabled vets, they would absolutely agree that you would be eligible for that status and to retain that status if someone were to ever challenge it. So my advice to you would be, if you would like to double dip and be both a woman-owned business and a service disabled veteran-owned business, you need to, first of all, I would do this with an attorney, and we have a firm that we work with. We can talk about that at some point if you'd like a referral. You need documentation that shows that you make all the decisions. But practically speaking, aside from the documentation, you need to start making the decisions unilaterally so that you have a paper trail showing that you're the one making decisions. So there's no problem if your husband is co-owner of the business. He can't own more than 49%.
Mhm.
So he can own up to 49% of the business, but you have to, if you want the woman-owned status as well, you have to have unconditional control of the business, and that has to be in all of your founding documents, and you have to be able to show that over time. So let me stop there and see if you have questions.
Yeah, so is it true that if I do that now, that my husband cannot legally work for the business as an employee or a 1099 contractor? Because I don't remember what the guy said. He said there's some weird old law from back in the day with guys and their wives, and I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let me answer this way. There has always been, and there will continue to be, people who try to circumvent the intent of these programs. That you may have heard things in the past like rent a vet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where someone will say that a disabled vet is operating a company, and it's a sham.
Uh-huh.
So it's perfectly fine if your husband is not involved in the business. It's perfectly fine if he is involved in the business. It's perfectly fine if you pay him as a 1099. It's perfectly fine if you pay him as an employee. All of these things, I'm an employee of my own business, so I get a W-2 from a business I operate. So there's no problem with you paying both you and your husband a W-2 wage or a 1099 wage. So that doesn't really factor into it. What really comes down to retaining the statuses that you want to retain comes down to demonstrating that your founding documents show that you have control. Again, if you want to have both statuses, and that decisions that are being made, you can show that you're the one making the decisions, not that you're having to run everything by him. Because as soon as you have to run everything by a partner, and this is true of any business, then you have control, but you don't have unlimited control.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I know that was a lot, but I try to avoid topics if I don't know the details. But in this case, I've done a lot of research on this, and my career has brought me into contact with these issues on multiple occasions. So that all applies federally. For state and local contracts, it's a much easier answer. There may or may not be a woman-owned program in the state of Alabama. I don't know that. Are you in a major city?
Birmingham?
Okay. I've been to Birmingham. There may or may not be a woman-owned program in their contracting apparatus as well, and I simply do not know that. But the definitions of who can be a woman-owned business at the state level or the local level may differ significantly from what I just described. So at the state and local level, it might just be as simple as, do you own 51%? And they may not care about who controls the business. So you would need to look into the state program if they have one. And if Birmingham or the county has one, you would need to understand how their requirements differ from the federal requirements.
Okay.
And how did you hear about the webinar series? And are you using our website? I apologize for not knowing that.
I think it was I don't know if I Googled or if it mentioned it on another YouTube video, because we're just trying to understand what all this is and how to start. It's just it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But what I always try to tell people is, don't be overwhelmed by the jargon. Don't be overwhelmed by the regulations and all the red tape around it. It's really just traditional sales and marketing with another layer of bureaucracy, right? And some people get a little bit intimidated by the jargon and by the red tape. But once you start learning it, it really becomes quite easy. The most challenging part of it is being able to respond to RFPs. That's a big part of it. So you need to be able to do that. But perhaps in your field, some of the services, and you said you're providing like construction services?
Yes.
Okay. So there may be a lot of work that you can get, which would be government contracts, and maybe the jobs are small enough where they might not even have to bid the jobs, right? And so I would be looking for very small jobs. I would be
like the set asides, you mean, or?
Well, when there's a set aside, what that implies is that there will be a solicitation, but the work is set aside for a small business or a disabled vet business or a woman-owned business. What I'm saying is there are potentially a lot of small construction projects where the amount of money changing hands allows the government agency to not issue a solicitation, right? So if there's a small repair in a building in Birmingham, that's a traditional sales and marketing opportunity to meet people in the facilities area and say, look, how can we do some work for the city or for the county that is small enough where you don't have to put it out to bid? And they can do that.
Who's they?
The decision makers around who would be paying folks who can fix things in buildings.
Okay, and not to monopolize the conversation, but maybe this is helpful for everybody. You mentioned networking, and this kind of ties into that. How would we all go about starting to network or get in front of these people for these opportunities? Are there gatherings other than flying somewhere to some?
Yeah, so, and that's an answer that also varies by level of government. So at the federal level, each federal department, defense, justice, education, energy, they all have their own OSDVO, the Office of Small Business Development, and that person is charged with fostering the growth of small businesses within their contracting initiatives at the department level. And typically they will have email lists. If you get on the email list of different, and you should look at it department by department. So get on the Department of Defense list for small business utilization, and each department has something like that. And they will manage their own notifications and announcements of events. So if you get on the Department of Defense, for example, maybe they have a building or they have buildings in the Birmingham area. I don't know. But they may send an email to you in 6 months that says, hey, we're doing a networking event. It's going to be in Birmingham. It's going to be great. So that is a way to get exposure to what's happening federally. And then it's the same process at the state level, where there will be, if you start poking around on the state of Alabama website, you'll see that they have different contracting initiatives. There's probably an email list. So if I were you, I would be joining a bunch of email lists separately at the department level federally. At the state level, look for email lists and how to get notified of events and networking events at the state level. And then for the city and county, Birmingham, and I don't know what county that is, that is where you might want to press the flesh a little bit more, where you might be picking up the phone and calling people and saying, hey, who manages these events, or how do you foster, small business utilization in your contracting initiatives at the state or at the county and municipal level? So that's a little bit more of an old-fashioned thing where you just want to talk to people by phone, or even go to a building and say, who manages all this for the city of Birmingham? And you may stand in front of someone at that point who says, I do it. These are the events we have. This is what you need to do if you want to show up.
How do you foster small business utilization? That's what I'm asking.
Well, that's a little pedantic. I guess I maybe shouldn't put it that way. I would say I would stand in front of someone in a municipal building and say, who is responsible for contracting initiatives for small business?
Okay.
Yeah, and then that person would be able to tell you whether and who would be responsible as it relates to woman-owned businesses or disabled vet businesses.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have Prunette, Drew, and Corinthian. What do you folks think of all this? Does any of this apply to your businesses?
Yeah, it does for me. I know you can get overwhelmed with the federal level, so I'll talk about it at a couple of points. But to your point, on each of these agency sites, you can actually navigate through the OSDBs, like you're saying, small business development folks, and get to their event calendar. And then that event calendar, it kind of goes for the rest of the year, or as they know things. So each of the agencies or departments I've targeted, I can go to their OSDBs section of their website and then actually look at their event calendar. And I can determine, is it strategic for me to attend certain events, that kind of thing. And same at the state level.
Yeah, and that's at the state level. And at the federal level, they also have at the department levels, defense, justice, energy, education.
That's right.
They have contracting forecasts. So I would be looking at the contracting forecast of different departments and seeing what's coming down the pike that might be a direct contracting opportunity for your business, or also a subcontracting opportunity. So there might be some larger IT projects that are coming up where you can start to try to network with people who might be interested in that. If you call the OSDBO and say, hey, where can I learn about this contracting initiative? Who's going to be involved in it? And sometimes they will even have lists of their prime contractors that they'll give you that they already do business with and say, hey, here are 6 companies we already do business with for IT. You definitely want to network with them. And that's the kind of thing that an OSTBU should be doing for you as a small business, is helping put you in front of prime contractors.
Right. Exactly.
We have a question from Dominique and also from, I think, Sridhar, and I'm sorry if I'm not getting the name right. Dominique and Sridhar, if you would like to, please raise your hand, because I'm not sure. Okay, so Dominique, we're going to bring you on. You've done that. Both of you, we're going to bring you on as well. And I just would like you to ask your questions directly by participating, because I think it'll be a better, I'll be able to give you a better answer. So I'm going to promote Dominique. And Sridhar. And Dominique, we just need your audio.
Nick, while you're bringing them on, we were talking about the women-owned certifications and stuff.
Yeah.
We have a WBENC cert that we went through. Is that a good one, or what do you know?
Yeah, that's one of the main certifying bodies federally. So if they've certified you, then that means, you know, you have the gold stamp for federal contracts. Now, a lot of times that kind of thing is subject to challenge. So because there are so many woman-owned businesses, someone may be disgruntled if they feel that you're not really a woman-owned business. Now, this is hypothetical. I'm not speaking about your business. But if something is ever challenged, the paperwork and the past certification is one thing. They will ask you, like, how does the business really operate? And they will need to see examples of how the woman who owns the business has unconditional control. And that's something that comes up. And it typically comes up around contract awards that are challenged, right? So company A loses, or company A wins, company B loses, and they say, I know this company. It's not really a woman who's running the company. It's her husband, right? And that kind of thing happens all the time. And it also happens with disabled vet businesses or the other special socioeconomic categories. So hopefully that helps. Dominique, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Hi there, I'm in Western Massachusetts. I run AlliesInRecovery.net. We're an online program that trains and resources families of people with addiction.
Okay.
We use AI and e-learning programming and quite a significant back end, and serve 4.5 states so far. Coverage of our work, our programming is across 4.5 states. I wanted to ask you to say a little bit more about the 5% that you talked about, just very, very briefly, and whether that has to the partner has to align, or could it be a good cause or a donation? What is that 5%?
Yeah, okay. And the answer I'm about to give you is also a federal answer, right? So if the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or your town or county has a program, that would not be the answer I'm about to give. But government-wide, the federal government has a goal of spending 5% of all direct contracts with women-owned businesses. And then separately, it has a goal of 5% subcontracting to woman-owned businesses as well. And so from a subcontracting perspective, I would imagine that there would be a fair number of opportunities in your field where you may be the solution you're looking for, that's prime contracting, but there may also be opportunities where you may be part of a solution if the solution has a broader scope than what you do. Have you seen that in some of your other endeavors so far?
I have not seen any example of an initiative that we could step in and really not have to twist ourselves into a pretzel to try and propose. On the other hand, the subcontracting, providing the solution, the wellness program, the employment program, there's so many ways that our online program is helpful to the families and I have 10 years of data on it. So it should be a natural family partner in any sort of treatment or counseling center that's focused typically on the individual with the condition, whether it be addiction or some kind of mental health problem.
So have you had client opportunities where you were not doing business directly with the government, but through another party?
Yes, and they had to be the lead, and they were community, it's opioid settlement dollars that are coming through state to localities, depending on which state. And I've been able to partner with training centers, for-profit, in one case, a for-profit treatment program. So I can find partners. I can't get in directly yet, though.
So is your challenge is not finding prime contracting partners to give you work, is your challenge finding the contracts that would be direct contracts?
Well, that is a challenge that is just a complete goose egg right now. There are no opportunities for training and resourcing families of people with addiction.
Okay.
At any level. So in Rhode Island, for instance, they provided the community foundation of that state some opioid settlement dollars. And through that and a lead partner, we were able to see some money.
Yeah, I would think that there must be some federal dollars that might be contracted. And I want to draw a distinction between grants and contracts. So we're talking about contracts here, not grants. And I realize that that may be part of your universe. It's not really part of ours. But I suspect that there would be some federal contracting and state contracting opportunities that would be prime contracts around this sort of thing. And I apologize for not knowing this, Dominique, but are you using our website today?
Not today. I have in the past.
Okay.
I had to put somebody on this so they would stay regularly with you and sort of be my right-hand person on this. That didn't work out, and I'm buried right now.
Yeah, understood. Well, in any event, whenever somebody joins this session, there's a 14-day free trial. We turn that into a 30-day trial. So whenever the timing's right, let's re-engage on it. Even if you want to trade some emails, I can send you some list of things that we've seen that involve addiction. But if you don't have the capacity in-house to react to any of it, right, that would be an inhibitor, I think.
Of course. Yeah, no, we would have to register with various states. I haven't seen the solicitation that I've seen one in Delaware. But it was so close to the deadline that it was clear that, I get it. You have to register in this. I'm just so new to this, right? So register with the state and do it well in advance. And I guess you pick the states if you're a national program, most likely.
Are you referring to a licensing requirement in your business specifically?
No, just to be a registered business with the state.
Sure, that does come up from time to time. We find the biggest challenge people have is responding to the RFP. Do you have a way to respond to RFPs?
I do, and we're very successful once we can, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting because I know that this is an important area. Obviously, addiction is a problem everywhere in the States. And so it's good work that you're doing, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you. I mean, it's a scalable online program with expert evidence-based help on it. You can talk to somebody any day of the week and get real help. I appreciate you letting me highlight it. And
Yeah, go ahead.
I am looking for IT partnerships to bring us to the next level of e-learning and gamification that I'm looking for. So I'll just throw that out there.
Well, and we have some folks in the IT business on this session today. Yeah, people have done business with one another as a result of being on one of our sessions. So you never know.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what do you all think about some of this stuff? I know, Liz, you've had your hand raised. Liz, if you'd like to type a really specific question, perhaps I can answer it. We'd love to have you join. But I do see your hand raised. But if you're not willing to engage, then yeah, by all means, type another question. So Ravi, I'm going to bring you on. I see you've raised your hand again. I think it was Ravi. Was it Ravi? Okay, we have Liz joining us and Ravi. And let's see who gives us audio first. And there is Liz. Welcome to MyGovWatch Live, Liz. What do you do and where are you joining us from? And it looks like you're muted again. Okay. Either Liz or Ravi, if you'd like to join, we just need you to unmute. Otherwise, we'll do something else.
So
Great.
Nick,
Drew, follow-up questions?
yeah, I mean, I really haven't taken too much of a look of the site, but is it pretty self-explanatory? Is it easy, or is it something that you want to have a follow-up with Andreas and
No, on
I?
my computer, I'm not. As long as I keep Buckner.
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, we have Ravi and we have Liz, but Drew, I'd like to answer your question before Ravi or Liz participates. But
It's Keith.
when customers adopt our site, generally the ease of use is one of the main things
Yeah.
on the site as a reason why they've chosen our site. So certainly we can spend some time directly on Zoom, you know, one-to-one, or you as well as your partner, and I'd be happy to spend some time directly showing you how the tool set works and why people find it to be so usable. And thank you for that question, Drew. So Liz, we see your screen. I don't know if you realize you're sharing it, but welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where do you do it from?
Hi, this is Keith from IT 911. Now we're doing it from San Diego, California.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what do you do?
We're in IT. We're an IT company, MSP, SOC, NOC company.
Okay. All right. And so welcome to MyGovWatch Live. Did you have a specific question around government contracting that we can help you with?
I did. We've done this, for several years now, but we have not landed a government contract. And most of the time it's because we're denied because we haven't had a contract awarded to us yet. And I'm not sure on how you can get around that. But if I'm open for suggestions, if anyone's out there, we just hired Liz to handle all of our procurement in our company. So we just got a couple of big jobs that we needed some procurement done, which she's done a great job at. And now we're just going to try to move her on to the government contracts for the time being until these jobs are done that we just got.
Okay. And can you be more specific about the kinds of IT work that you do?
Everything. The way I describe it to customers is that we're like an apartment manager. You know, whatever your network needs, we can. We do everything. I'm sorry. So basically from A to Z, we do setting up your network. We do all your infrastructure from subnetting and, cloud-based applications, migrating to cloud. We host websites. We purchase domain names for you. We do all that nice stuff. We also do monitoring 24/7, and we also do security.
Okay. And how would you characterize the size of your company, whether it be number of employees, number of contracts, revenue? Like, how big are you folks?
Well, we're currently 5 of us. We're in our 14th year, and we're planning a big thing for our year 15 next year. But we're 5 of us, and we do the work for 60 companies right now that we're managing on a monthly basis. So
okay, yeah. So just hearing what I'm hearing about your company, there's something not right there, because when I hear a company of your size, that's a significant IT company, right? You're not 500 people, but it's big enough where you have real commercial clients. That tells me that there's something that's happening incorrectly in your process of either deciding which contracts to bid on, right? So at the very front end, or once you decide what to bid on, whatever you're including in your submissions or how you're going about responding to RFPs. So how many opportunities do you evaluate in a month or in a quarter, and how many do you bid on?
We haven't looked at any contract for a couple, probably about a year or so, because it takes up a lot of time. My wife was doing that for us for a while, but it just took up too much time to do. So she's mainly our person, like the other young lady. She's doing all the back end stuff.
Sure, and I'll just go back to something that came up earlier. IT resources, whether it be, help desk or programming or infrastructure, you name it. It's a growing part of government contracting, and it's something that where they can't always get the solutions they need. So I would just encourage you to stay at it and find a way, a mechanism to respond to more opportunities. There are people out there who you can freelance to, depending on your labor market, you could spend anywhere from 25 to 75 bucks an hour and get someone who knows how to respond to an RFP. And I would just encourage you to look for opportunities with smaller government agencies, right? So a lot of times larger companies will be focused on state contracts or contracts with large cities or large counties. I would be specifically looking for smaller opportunities if I were you.
Okay, yeah, that's understandable. But so on the other hand, so like this one we tried to do this week was in Florida. They just wanted Surface tablets, and we couldn't do that one for nothing on their part was the problem. The only reason why we couldn't do that is because our cage code wasn't valid any longer. We moved from an LLC to a sole proprietorship. But so we worked that out. And so we're waiting on that. But how in the world do you nail the first contract on those contracts that require a business that have had government contracts before?
Yeah, and I want to answer your question by saying that it's an incorrect premise that you must have government contracting experience in order to win government contracts. That's like the ultimate chicken and egg. Now, there certainly are contracts. The larger they are, the more likely this is to be the case, where they'll say, don't bid on the RFP unless you have 3 years of experience with another government contract. But that tends to happen the larger the contract is, right?
Okay.
So the smaller the contract is, towns, counties, school districts, they can't always afford to make that a requirement because they may not get 2 or 3 bids in that case. Right.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm saying I would encourage you to look for things that are smaller, right? Things that you can do from school districts, small towns, small colleges, that kind of thing. And I would be looking to improve your bid process, right? And your management process around responding to bids, because it sounds like even though you bid on things in the past, you should be looking at it as, hey, in the next 12 months, we're going to bid on 5 contracts, right? And try to get good, try to evolve your process into one where you are able to bid on things on a regular basis, even if it's 5 or 6 per year. And if you're picking the right opportunities, based on what I'm hearing, you should win something.
Okay, good. Thanks for the confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anybody who needs anything in San Diego, hit me up. I'm available.
Hit me up. Yeah, and Dominique asked a question about MyGovWatch. MyGovWatch covers all government contracts, federal, state, and local. So we have 21 different buyer types. Anything from the federal government down to, water and sewer authorities, school districts, public hospitals, public utility systems, you name it. So Liz, stay with us. Ravi, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Well, I own a recycling company in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And until last 2 years back, I was dealing only with private sector. But with the COVID, I took a big hit. And now I want to venture out into government contracts, to develop the business and increase their overall company and revenue and everything, because the overhead costs are not cutting down. It's the same.
Right. Right. Well, so you're dealing with electronic waste and electronic recycling?
Yes, that's right. It's not electronic waste and recycling, but it's a ITAD. asset disposition with ROI, return on your investment. If there is any value to the item, we're more than happy to pay back to the percentage, depending on the service you require. If you require a data destruction, we'll do the data destruction, deduct the money, and if there is a value still, sell it, cut you a check.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we have opportunities like that on MyGovWatch. Have you signed up yet for a trial?
No, not yet.
Yeah. Okay. So, number one, the government buys what you sell. Number two, I know these opportunities are out there on our website. So I would just say this very simply. If you choose to start a trial on our site, I'm happy to make it a 30-day trial, and I'll take personal responsibility for making sure that you have visibility to what you're looking for. And then you just decide at that point, like, do you want to receive these leads every week and every month, or do you want to try to find some other way to do it?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just see if we have a question here in the chat. Prunette asks, is there a specific link that you should use for the trial with MyGovWatch? There is not. I'm just going to put the website in www.mygovwatch.com. And right on the landing page at the top, there's a mechanism for creating a username and password, and then that'll send you a confirmation email. And then you just sort of step through the setup. I get an email report daily on who's signing up. So I always remember when I see somebody in one of our sessions, if I see them on the report, I will reach out to you personally to make sure you have the training you need to see how the site works. So typically these sessions go from an hour to 90 minutes. I'm really glad. I've never had this many people on the screen before. That's awesome. Follow-up questions.
I'm good. I got to bounce, so I want to just thank you, and I'll sign up. You'll see my my stuff.
Thank you, Drew. I'll reach out when I see it.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, Drew. And Dominique, you're back with us?
Thank you. I just want to say very helpful for me. The one contract I have with the state, it's because it's under 100,000. So that's the way I've gotten into the state level. It's not elegant, but knowing that there are a lot of these smaller numbers below the state level has been very helpful to me. I have a whole new way of thinking about, especially with the opioid settlements, where states like Massachusetts have provided a lot down lower than the state level, local towns, counties, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to spend their money. So
they don't know what to do to help facilitate reductions in some of the things that you're trying to prevent. Yeah, I mean, I would love to start an email back and forth with you, Dominique, because I suspect that there's a lot on our website that you would like to know about. And I realize it's a question of timing, but I think there's an awful lot of meat on the bone, so to speak.
that would be, I'd like to see any meat whatsoever.
I'll send you an email once we're offline. You take a look. And
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Yep. Yep. So Corinthian, Ravi, Prunette, Pepper, anyone else?
Well,
I don't have
I'm
anything.
definitely gonna go ahead and sign up on the site, and hopefully we'll get a few opportunities rolling.
You will definitely see opportunities. And yeah, it's just a question of, like, you know, a lot of times it comes down to how much time do you or does your company have to devote to it, right? So typically when someone signs up for our site, if they leave, it's not because they don't like our site. Typically it's because they don't have time to do anything, right? So, and that's a challenge that comes up from time to time. But Prunette, I'll look for your sign up, and I would engage with you personally if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, if there's nothing else, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap it there, and I'll just say that'll do it for today's edition of MyGovWatch Live. Remember, if you're not already a subscriber, start your free 14-day trial at mygovwatch.com today, which I will make 30 days. If you want to win more government contracts for less, you'll be glad you did. Folks, thank you for attending, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.